What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week of Youth Devotionals. I am at my house today, and it's in the morning, and my son is still sleeping, so this is perfect. We are going to talk about Abraham a little bit today. And Abraham is a really interesting man because 3 of the world's top religions trace their history back to this one man. So he's super important in the Bible. And so we're going to kind of pick apart part of his story today. And it all started when God told him to leave what he has known, leave the comfortability of his situation, of his life, and to walk into something unknown. Now, I don't know about you, but I do not like the unknown. I'd rather know all the details, all the facts, all the answers before I walk into that. But that's not always how it gets to happen, especially for Abraham right now. And there was no way for Abraham to know that when he stepped forward into what God was calling him, how it was going to change the course of the rest of his life. And the same is true with us. When we take a step of faith into the way that God is leading, into the way that God is directing us, we have no idea how that is going to or could change our world in the future. All we're doing is being obedient. Now, my first question for you is this. How many of you have ever stepped into an unknown situation and thought to yourself like, ooh, this is not my scene. This is not for me, and I think I'm just going to go back to the comfort of my little bubble and my little box, and we're just going to call it a day because I'm over this. Me. I feel like even in small situations that are different or anything, I'm quick to be like, I don't know about all this. Another thing that comes along with that, when we step out in obedience and when we are in the world of the unknown, the wild, if you want to call it that, our mind starts to take over sometimes and starts to run away with itself and play lots of tricks on us. And one of the things that it likes to do is come up with all kinds of lies and let you know or try to convince you that you've made too many mistakes for this to really make sense. Let's talk about church, for example, okay? Maybe you personally, maybe you have a friend, maybe you have a family member that says or has said to you in the past, I've made too many mistakes to go to church. Like, God knows what I do, and so there's really no point in me going there. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but sometimes the lies in people's heads or the things that people tell you continue into like, I know how I talk, how many people I've slept with, how I talk about that girl. I know on and on and on and on and on. There's no way that just because God told me to come here and I've come here, that he's just going to erase all those things and use me the way that he said he was. I'm going to talk about myself. A lot of times when I read stories in the Bible and they tell of people that seem to have it all together, then I'm like, wow, this is over my head. Like, how am I supposed to do all that stuff? But this story about Abraham is kind of cool because as you pick it apart, you realize that he's really not perfect. And we all know in our head that there's only one perfect person, right? Jesus was the only perfect person. Everybody else in the Bible is clearly not perfect. So in Abraham's story, he had promises given to him by God. And the first one was after he was told to leave his country. The reason that God told him to do that was because he said he was going to make him a great nation. He also told him and his wife Sarai at the time, Abram and Sarai, that he was going to give them lots of descendants. Now, one of the things that's tricky about that is they didn't have any children, and Sarah wasn't able to have children. And hello, they're both old, really old. So they're old, they can't have kids, and God told them they were going to be the father and mother of lots of descendants. Well, at that point, how many of you have ever had a word spoken over you that seems almost impossible to come to pass, right? All the details are just chalked up against you, and there's really no way that this is going to happen. Well, that's kind of how they felt. And after they tried for 10 years, they were like, okay, this is just not working. Something's got to give here. And so they took things into their own hands, as we as humans love to do, because sometimes we think we know best, and God surely has missed the mark, right? I know I've done that. And I'm going to wrap this one up for now with this. I want you to think about that in your own life. I want you to think about a word that maybe has been spoken over you, or maybe a promise that's been given to you that seems maybe too far-fetched, or seems like it's just not going to happen. And maybe it's now, maybe it's before, and you've taken something into your own hands and it's just not worked. Next time I'm going to tell you about what I did, and we'll talk a little bit more about Abraham.